Cool. Okay, so this is our first video chat, which I guess maybe we're gonna call inside the engine room.
That's what
Yeah,
GPT seem to believe we should call it.
Yeah.
trust the
And
AI.
I guess maybe it'll be kind of like a behind the scenes look into what we're doing. And so I organized this for us to talk about AI agents. And I want to pitch an idea for you, and then we can kind of explore it together. Does that sound okay?
I'm listening.
Cool. I'm not going to pitch it yet, but
Oh, you
I
got me
got going.
excited.
I got going on this path for a couple of reasons. One is that, as you know, we do a lot of workflow projects where we try and automate complex tasks. And then the other was David, our business advisor, mentioned that he's hearing a lot about agentic AI. And if this C-suite business investment guy is talking about it, then it seems like it's percolated beyond the tech developer sphere. So maybe it's time for us to kind of dig in.
Time to cash in on those AI bucks, Aaron.
That's right. Yeah. It might be the moment.
If David knows about it, then the word's out.
Yeah, exactly. That's the theory. Um, so before we get to the idea, I wanted to set the background a little bit and talk about some terminology, which I've been posting a little bit about. So I watched this short presentation from Barry Zhang, who's an engineer at Anthropic, and he talked about this progression of AI over the last couple of years that I thought was really nice. So he started by talking about how we're doing single AI calls where we would maybe like ask a question, send it to the LLM, and then get an answer back. So that's where things started. And over the last couple of years, we've started chaining those calls together into like an AI workflow, which we're doing a lot of too. So if you imagine like getting a survey response, extracting some of the keywords, and then like, I don't know, attaching it to a record or sending an email or something. And then the current state of these systems is getting into more decision making, which is where AI agents come into play. And so I think the difference with the agent is that the idea is that the model has access to multiple tools or resources, and then it can decide if or when it does different actions. So it's kind of like a little bit more independent in what it actually is going to do.
For better or for
And
worse.
what's that?
I said for better or for worse.
Yeah, that's right. And so then, like thinking about when you might need this type of thing, there's another really neat recent publication by OpenAI called A Practical Guide to Building Agents. And I posted on LinkedIn about this the other day, but they talk about how you might need an agent if there are nuanced decisions involved, or if there are multiple paths where like you could go one or two directions, and if the inputs are really unstructured or uncertain. So I thought that was kind of a nice framework too for kind of setting the background.
Yeah, I read that post, and one thought that sort of crossed my mind is I wonder how we bridge the gap to even that concept of checking that to-do list of like, does your workflow meet these criteria? I think a lot of businesses wouldn't even know how to clearly answer. um, so I think one of the challenges right now is folks understanding like, does the shoe fit for us and how?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like for for our clients, for example, like they don't really know if it's a nuanced decision or not, maybe.
Right.
I think
Exactly.
that's where we fit in though, right? I think we're I guess like uniquely positioned to be that guiding light for them. I would say we understand how their data works because we work with them on consolidating some of that. So it feels like a proper next step to tell them, hey, this AI stuff's pretty cool. Why don't you try it out and give them a quick reason why it like fits to one of their workflows, right? I think we learned a lot about how they work, why certain things are a time sink for certain folks. So just choose like a small part of that and say we can make this easier for you, and then you spend time doing what you're good at, right? Like, I mean, if we're gonna kind of follow that mantra all the way down, might as well give it a bit of a modern flair.
Yeah, yeah, and I always key in on if someone's like, this is really hard or it takes me a long time to do this,
Right.
like that's where this might be a good idea.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
often people who don't work in our industry don't understand what's even possible today. And something we run into a lot also is folks thinking that it's going to be really time consuming or super expensive. Like, hey, we're going to have to hire a team of 10 data scientists and it's going to take, and often you can build a pretty lean version of what they need or prototype in just a couple hours. And that's not well understood by the industry,
Yeah,
I think.
great. So okay, so here's my idea. This is like, it's on that path of like things that things that take a lot of our time, and that would be nice if we didn't have to necessarily do it all the time. And so the concept is that we're growing as a company, bringing in new contractors, and I want to make sure that they are getting the right amount of work. We all do. But I don't like assigning work or like keeping track of that stuff. And so what I want is an AI agent to check in with our people on a regular cadence and then get them as much work as they want to keep going. So this is fitting my need of like making sure that we're actually sort of allocating tasks in an efficient way. Which is the pain point is that like we've it's a lot of work to to make sure that each person is on the right thing and like checking in if they're okay and that kind of thing.
And it's a high cost pain point. Like if we don't do this well, then we let our clients down. Well, that's probably dramatic. We would not turn around their work as efficiently or effectively as we could otherwise.
Yeah, like the hope is that it can help us move a little bit more smoothly. Help the engine run better.
Fire on all cylinders. Oh boy.
I mean, who doesn't love sending out emails? Come on, guys. Like,
Love it. Y'all know
your
how much I
favorite
love
part
email.
of every Monday has to be hey, what are you doing this week? How's it going? How much time do you have?
Kill it with
Yes.
fire.
That's the email. Okay, so this thing, it needs to do four things, this system. First, it needs to assess the person's work capacity for the week. And then second, it needs to see if they need any direction for their work because they might still be working on stuff. Or if they are like, I'm going to need more. And then the third thing, which is the big thing, is to identify tasks, give them recommendations of things that they could complete or that they could take on that week. And then the fourth thing is alerting us if the person needs additional help or if the agent can't figure out what to do. So that's kind of like the scope of the agent in my mind is something that can figure out their capacity, figure out if they need help, and start helping with that task allocation. What do you think?
I love it. Wait, so first of all, yes, I love it so much. And I think you've defined the problem super well. And even without more nuanced answers to the questions I'm about to ask, yes, absolutely. That would be a huge quality of life improvement. Where would the agent go to know what tasks are available for contractors?
That would require some sort of resource if we're thinking about tools and resources that an agent could use. And so we'll need a task library. And I've already kind of like thought about how it could be structured, but the idea is that we have a backlog of things that we need by client, and then maybe we can identify like eligible people that could fit it, and then they could kind of claim those tasks as they come in.
I feel like this is a perfect example of what we run into with our clients, which is often what they think is the hard part, which is building the agentic AI or building some sort of algorithm to accomplish tasks for them is actually the easy part. And the hard part is making sure that they have clean data ready to give that agentic AI access to it in order for it to fuel the workflow. So in our case, like we're ready to build the model, but we're not ready to give it the data it needs because we still need to do workflow work to make that data available to it.
Yeah, the simple thing is the hard part.
Right.
And the complex thing is a little bit easier.
Right. But okay, so we build a task backlog, and we indicate somewhere on there, yeah, a contractor could take this. We'd love a contractor to pick this up. What other things do you think are missing from our ability to do this?
Well, I'm interested to see if it's able to, if we can track things that are in progress, if it's able to kind of like recognize that this person's already doing something. So like, next up on their list might be this, but we don't need to like say they need a bunch of tasks in their queue, which is actually part of why I was thinking about this as like a choose your own adventure instead of us assigning things. Like instead of saying, Aaron, you get this thing this week, it's more of like here are the things that are available, and you could take it on. What it doesn't, there's a bunch of stuff that it doesn't get us, but I think that's like something that I'm interested in. That one piece is something I'm interested in seeing if it can handle.
It could be cool if the person could say, I don't have time for that huge project. Is there something smaller I could accomplish in an hour or two?
Yeah, okay. So
neat.
let's start let's start thinking about what those special nice to haves for this. Like, okay, so you said if they come back and say, actually, like I can't do this project because it's, even though I have 10 hours available, it's an 8-hour thing and I don't want to focus all day on it.
Yeah, right. Or, this week I'm pretty swamped and I only really have time to fit in like 2 or 3 hours of work, but I want to get something shipped. Like I want to contribute, I want to help out, I want to log some hours and make some money. Is there something I can get done in that time frame? Because also our work is pretty fast moving. Like by the time they're like, oh, I can do an 8-hour task next week, it's like we might have taken it by then, or someone else might have taken it by then.
Yeah, so I think if we indicate sort of like an expected amount of time that a task would take, like if we say, we think this might take like 3 or 4 hours, and if they say I have 5 hours available, then we could check that and say, actually, these are the ones we can give you because you said you have 5 hours. So here are things that are within that criteria.
It's cool. We often end up scoping
what it
stuff
doesn't
anyway.
do, what that wouldn't do would be say like, I have 5 hours available, but there's a 10-hour project. We might want to still include it, and just say like, do 5 hours this week.
Yeah, I mean, that could be something maybe the agent does, is it says, we can either give you the smaller task and you can ship it this week, or you can start a bigger task. Here's the list of bigger tasks you could start.
Yeah.
How are you imagining building this, Aaron? Like, how would you break this down into components and make it real?
I thought about doing it in an email. So they would get an email at the start of the week and then reply to it and say, give their answers in the email. And then that event of receiving the email response would trigger the agent to go do its thing. And then it would reply to the thread and say, here's the feedback.
Yeah, so what would you be building? Like, what would be processing the data and sending the email?
Yeah, so I prototyped the email send in Retool. So we can trigger a workflow to send out the email through Retool. And then the receiving part is I was going to set it up with Make to start, to say like, watch my email inbox for a message with this reply to.
Yeah, for people who don't know what those tools are, before you keep going, like, so you said you were the initial component, you're going to use a tool called Retool to process the data and then fire off an email. What's Retool?
Retool is a low-code development platform.
Awesome. Very concise.
Sebastian, do you have a better definition?
Honestly, no.
Oh, come on. Even I can do
so-
better than that.
Okay, all right. No, I mean, it really just depends, right? So if we're thinking as far as, the scope or like the range of low and no code tools, I think Retool kind of falls at the higher end where you might want to have a little bit more coding experience. It's not a very easy, like, out of the box, I just want to build something quick and, get some gratification out of it and know that it kind of like does its thing and be okay with it. It does have, kind of like drag and drop components. You can build your UI in a very similar fashion as you would in like a very low code, no code tool, but it's definitely more on the like low code side. So the power of it actually is unlocked whenever you do have a bit more development experience. You want to get a more complicated, maybe more streamlined, more like customizable UI on top of like your data. That's when you would consider a tool like Retool, right? Where you have more flexibility for like full-on customization and more flexibility for like complicated workflows that kind of happen behind the scenes. So it's a good consideration for why Aaron would probably choose that to like have that initial workflow be built out in it, because it kind of gives you the workflow component or like piece out of the box, but at the very least it gives you a very solid building block for making it, right? Like you still have to set it up yourself. You still have to put your branching paths in it, your logic, all that good stuff that make it, that secret sauce that puts that agent to work for you. But the good thing about Retool is that they're very gung ho on the agent, on like the AI front, right? Like they're putting AI at the forefront of a lot of their recent releases. They're putting a lot of focus on agentic solutions for their existing customer base. So the nice part about it is you get a lot of that AI stuff kind of componentized for you. So you can just like plug an AI model into your existing workflow, or they're building some tool sets for you to define an agent and then say, hey, I want this step to use my time coordination agent for my contractors. So in the scope of things, it's still a low code tool that's good for you getting value quickly, but it's definitely not a on that range, right? From no code, very easy to set up as an end user who doesn't have much coding experience, to low code that you need a bit more. I would say it's on the farther end where you definitely need a bit more experience, but you can get a lot out of it really quick.
Yeah, so major shortcut for Aaron, not a major shortcut for me because I can't write code.
Yeah, and that agent, the AI work that Retool is doing right now that they're launching really soon is why I wanted to put it in that workflow framework. And so like the concept for the return path then is that we'll receive the email through Make and then send it back to Retool through a webhook.
Yeah,
Interesting. So Retool can't ingest it?
Yeah, actually, it's a good question.
I don't know. The triggers for a workflow right now are a schedule or a webhook event, as far as I know. There might be a way to get an email.
Interesting. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is we're building the ultimate stand-up bot. We're gonna do some backlog grooming right before this. We're gonna have a list of tasks with scoped out, requirements and estimates, and then we're gonna have our stand-up bot. Every Monday hits you up, says, "How does your week look? What have you done? What can you do?" And you're gonna save a lot of people a lot of time.
Oh my God! Imagine.
I really love stand-up meetings. I think if we were to ask people what their favorite time of the week is, it's definitely stand-up meeting.
As the resident product manager, I feel a lot of mixed emotions about this. All right, but you can't replicate my several months worth of playing songs to start stand-up that include the word stand-up.
True.
I agree.
And
I think what actually
could
does
you?
do for you, Catie, it's it saves you time not having to run a stand-up meeting to then run a meeting where you only talk about music, right? All that
I love
time
that
saving,
KPI.
you could just have a what's your music of the week meeting, and that's a much
I
more
love that.
enjoyable time spent for everybody, right?
Yeah, happiness meter goes up.
And
Right.
I know this is really close to your heart, Catie, but it gets us away from project management, and we can
Yes.
actually do that stuff that we want to do.
So I can not do the tedium and start thinking about what will delight
Right.
customers and make money, which is the heart of
Yeah.
product management.
Yes.
And
Well,
imagine the cool scenario whenever someone asks you, "What does a product manager even do?" and you're like, "We just give value, right? Like we just provide value."
And
All these
I don't have
tasks
to,
that the business really needs to accomplish that nobody wants to think about, I have time to think about that now.
mm-hmm.
yeah, and I don't have to hurl people off a bridge anymore when they
Yeah.
call me
Yeah, I
project
mean,
manager. No hate.
no more teeth pulling, right?
Yep.
But we've all had those stand up meetings where you show up, nobody's talking, it's Monday, nobody wants to be there, and you just
Somebody throws a
awkward.
plush at your face.
Somebody throws a dumpster fire plushie at your head. And
We've all
you think
been
to
there.
yourself, this week couldn't get any better.
We've all been there. Oh man, I actually, there are probably a lot of people out there who would want to use this if we built it right. If you frame it as world's best stand-up bot, it's pretty compelling, honestly. And I mean, really, what you're not necessarily replacing stand-up, although you kind of are, but it's more you're replacing weekly planning. Like, what'd you accomplish last week? What are you doing this week?
Mm-hmm.
This or that. I mean, if the agent does a really good job with that, then that's pretty awesome. So, could have used this in a lot of past jobs. Awesome.
Now is the moment. This is the agent moment. So now we can try it. But I'm gonna give it a shot. So the first email is going out on Monday, and the agent is not built yet, so there's nothing on the receiving end. But
That's okay.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's home. Somebody will be there eventually.
I'll
I'm
be
excited.
there.
This will be cool. Yeah, we can work on the. So from my side, what I would do to support this is building the actual data set it's going to look at for tasks. Probably right.
Yeah, and I can set it up, and we can start filling it. Like I'm sure that part can be a collaborative thing where we're just kind of like tossing stuff in there as we come upon it.
Nice. And
that
Yeah,
one, I think is prime for either Airtable or Airtable, like softer via Airtable, to have an Airtable that has these tasks tracked per person.
yeah, and I think this is where we're going to need some data integration work because we have task boards all over creation with our clients. And
Yeah, I was imagining just duplicating them all.
yeah. I mean, well, some of them it makes more sense to duplicate them, and some of them they're housed in just a different Airtable. So for some of them, we could get cute. Yeah. And reduce duplicate entry that way, which candidly has kind of been a pain in my backside lately, trying to keep my personal to-do list up to date along with the client-facing one. So that would solve that pain point for me.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm in. Go team.
Anything else?
One thought on my mind is so consider that conversation cut.
Thanks for listening to the Inside Engine Room. We'll see you next.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, tell me you started a company with two dudes without telling me you started a company with two dudes. Inside the engine room, where pistons are firing.
That's what GPT said.
GPT is
Jupiter.
two dudes.
Jupiter is just two dudes in a trench coat.
I didn't give it any indication that's what I wanted. I didn't even tell it to give me a title. I just said, "Hey man, we're doing a podcast. I've given you some information about who we are as a company, and we want to talk about this stuff. Keep it light and engaging." And that's what it came up
And
with.
Jupiter was like, "Hey man, we're two dudes in a trench coat. Why don't you call it an engine room?"
You want to
Testosterone.
see how the sauce is made? Well, here we go.
Oh man. All right. Ship it.
You ever wonder